gotten that relationship, you feel responsible for that person. You want to push them. You want to, sometimes it's about making their life a little tougher and forcing them.
He does challenge.
And so he's not going to let you. He's not going to let you off easy.
Right.
He's going to.
That makes. Can I ask you a question? As a mentor.
Do we have time? Do we have time?
Go for it.
No. Yes, please.
Yeah. Do you feel You said you feel responsible for them. Do you feel like you can kind of vicariously live through their successes?
I think that's part of it. It definitely feels good to know that somebody's gone off and done what they say they wanted to do, or the lights come on and they've discovered something about themselves. So absolutely, I think to me that's part of that word of satisfaction. There's just a satisfaction in knowing that somebody's out there becoming who they are, kind of blossoming, pushing themselves. Making something, as opposed to just kind of the Walking Dead of just doing what everybody else is doing. So, no question about it. That is, I think, a big part for most people who get involved.
Because your mentee's success is your success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will finish my thought about W and my secret mentor. Is that now that they say what Dad say, is that I did an interview with him a few months ago. And he said that as an artist, you have to make sure that's what you like. In order to make it successful, in order to put in the time and the passion, you have to first understand if that's what you like. Because if you don't like it, you're not. Even if you're good at drawing, if you don't really like it, it's not going to work out for you. So that's how it goes down when it comes to the arts. I think and we're lucky. It's a blessing and a curse. Arts, creativity, because I know I could be work at a Kroger and work in the warehouse and move pallets of food and cans and so on and make a living. But I don't know if I would be happy if that would be one thing that helps me, would be passionate about as much as art is.
I think that's like a really good question. I'll keep it short to ask yourself is to say, what's going to make me happy? And if it's art, then how am I going to achieve happiness through art? And is it, you said, are you going to be happier with enough money to survive and always feeling, like you got it under control? Or are you going to be happier doing what you truly love, creating, and maybe struggling sometimes? Ideally, we don't struggle because we have a plethora of funding, but that's not the reality. The reality is... Yeah, it seems like things are moving in that direction, and it's getting easier. It's getting better for the people that take the initiative. But man, I think that's such a good question to ask yourself: are you going to be okay struggling? Because sometimes as an artist, you struggle.
Yeah.
And you might have to take the job at Kroger and work 40 hours a week, and then work in your studio the other 40. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Does anybody have any more questions today? Okay, I want to thank our speakers.
Actually, do you have one more?
I was going to
ask what are the most common questions that we get?
As a mentor, as a mentor.
Oh, okay.
Well, we know you get questions. Do you get questions every day?
Every now and then,
Yeah, or whatever.
I get questions about my artwork, but that's another story.
Mm-hmm. But have you gone back to talk to potential SCAD students and so on,
Quite
and giving them, and have they ask you questions?
Oh yeah, okay, so in that case, I'd say the most common question I get is, how do I find an internship while I'm in school? Mm-hmm. Because the people that, and just this is kind of a side on that, but the people that while they're in school or while they're doing something that gives them enough time, it might not be traditional schooling, but that gives them enough time to go out and get an internship, to go out and do something like that. It could be a fellowship, it could be a apprenticeship, whatever. The people that do that tend to be the ones that find more success, always. The people that wait until it's, I should have, the last 3 years, what was I doing? I should have taken that internship. I should have, been in that club and done those things. The people that do that regret will fuel more of that behavior. But when you are initially taking those jobs that might not pay you anything, that might take up a lot of your time, when you have the opportunities to do them, always go for them, because it will just even when you don't even realize it's happening, it will reinforce that type of behavior of allowing yourself to work when there might not be a reward that's right there in front of you. It might be years down the line. It might be a reward that you don't even see happening. So
the analogy I would apply to that is you've got to pay your dues. You can pay them early on and work hard, and you start to see the benefits sooner, or you can pay them later, and it takes a little while and things start to pay off, or you can never try and never get and go back and work for Kroger. And I think there are people who fall into each one of those things, and that's what I would want to tell. When I said show up, that's what I mean. Get out there, make things happen, be in the places where things are happening, talk to the people who show up. That's how you get through the steps that it takes. Almost nobody is discovered at the soda fountain and turns into a Hollywood starlet. They've worked their way. They've done their homework. They've paid their dues. So the sooner you start paying your dues, the sooner you're going to see the benefits.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not the same length of time. It's not the same process. It's not the same formula. It's not the same steps for any two people. But getting out there and making things happen and knowing what you want and spending time on your art and learning about yourself and questioning what your motivation is and discovering what works for you, what doesn't. All of those things are part of the formula for ultimately finding success and what I would call satisfaction in what you're doing, whether it's financial success or whatever. To me, if you're satisfied at the end of the day that you've put in a good day, that you've done a nice piece of artwork, I don't care, how much money you make. It doesn't matter at that point. You really don't care.
Anything to add?
Yeah, the most general question that I get is, how can I make more money with my artwork?
Yeah.
A lot of times it comes in different forms, but what it comes down to, that's what they're asking. Art is not it's not a renewable product. What I mean by that is, for most of us who drive in the past 2 or 3 days, you've been to a gas station. Within the next 2 or 3 days, you're going to have to go back to a gas station. If somebody buys a piece of art, they never have to come back and buy another piece of art for you. So I think an artist has to be willing to kind of diversify. If you're a painter, say for instance, you may have to move into or start putting your artwork on apparel or different areas and different venues, and you have to kind of see what works, see what doesn't work according, to your medium, your style, what, lanes you fit in. But a lot of times, the more money you want to make, a lot of times you may have to diversify your artwork and apply it to different things. And, some people are willing to do that, others are not. You just have to figure out your own threshold for that. But, it always comes down to the case, you have to do more than one thing. And, whether it's 2 or 3 things or 10 different things, you always have to do more than one thing if you want to increase your sales and your creating art.
The question I get asked a lot is, how do I make money?
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's the main one, and there are artists. Only artists ask me that.
Yeah.
They come and it's all the time. Once a week, at least somebody asks me, how do I make money? And I think that's the wrong question. It's the real question is, how can I prepare my art and myself to make money? Mm-hmm. Because that's where I go back to. As soon as they say that to me, I said, well, let me see your portfolio, or let me see what you got, or what are you ready for? Because how do I make money? There's jobs, but in art, you have to pay your dues. You have to prepare. You have to be open to figuring out where else can you post your art and show your art for it to sell.
Yeah.
The other thing is, we say pay your dues, and immediately you think, oh, that's the drudging through and the hard, and I'm going to be miserable through that part. Well, that's a choice. You can be happy and thrilled each day doing those things that are going to take you to the next step, or you could be miserable. Either way, you're going to spend that time, you're going to do those things. So just because we say paying your dues doesn't mean that it has to be a drudgery and all that. And go have fun.
But I find if you really, like you said earlier, if you really find what you love to do, paying the dues is not the
It becomes
because you love doing
Yeah.
it. It's not
Exactly.
your nature.
You know, at the end of every day, I'm better than I was yesterday. I don't
Yep.
care if it's this much or it's this much. I'm better than I was yesterday.
Hard part is being patient sometimes.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a lot of patience
Yeah,
for
if you're
sure.
good, you're going to get recognized. You're going to get paid for it. But a lot of times, it's waiting for that time to come.
And I'd comment real quick on the whole, like, being asked, hey, how do I make money with this? Because that's definitely a question I get too, and I have to ask myself. And you said diversify, which is very important, and find the avenues. Like lately, I've been doing a lot of festivals and trade show events where you can set up a booth or and sell artwork and be exposed to people that normally wouldn't see your work. And I found that when you create artwork that's at a price point above a certain number, which I could tell you later, but above a certain number, there's a huge percentage of the people that would be buying your work that now it's off limits to them. And so it's really, for me, figuring out a way to sustain your craft and to keep doing what you're doing. It's not about making money, because if it's about making money, you're in the wrong field. It's about sustaining it so that you can keep creating. And keep creating, that's my goal. And I feel like a lot of successful artists, their goal is to keep creating and to keep moving forward, getting the bigger venues, and also be prepared, like you said. If somebody comes along and says, "Hey, I've got a commission for a 12-foot tall sculpture made of these materials. I like what you do, but I want it bigger. I want it better. I want it, all around more." Are you going to be able to handle that? They may be offering you $20,000 to do this sculpture, but can you handle it? Because if you can't handle it, then you're putting yourself a step back, which is a bad thing.
That's when
to say the least.
When that offer comes in, that's when I take a course. I
Yes.
go quickly go take a course.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Figure out how to
Oh, yeah, now I'm going to make this
for
happen.
20,000.
I think it's important to prepare for that day. Don't
always.
wait
Yeah.
for the opportunity comes. Create it just to create it. So
preparation.
Because you're in business for yourself, you have to know how to budget, how to write a proposal, how to break down material costs, how much you're going to pay yourself per hour. All these things that you got to do for yourself and for the client, which they don't necessarily teach you in art school, or you don't learn by having a few little gallery shows here and there.
It's interesting because the question I get is, "Can you help me do a business plan?" Yeah, and actually that's not my thing. You've got a business now. Let me help you manage the business, not get it started. It's a little bit different in the art world in that, in most cases, you're not formally opening a brick and mortar or whatever. There are lots of ways to get on online and so on, but it's all those things that you just mentioned that go into a business plan. So if you're doing that kind of stuff, there are 1,000 websites or
It's all
resources online that say these are the steps that go into a business plan. Business plans in general these days aren't it's not a magic thing. It's not all, they don't all have to look the same. It basically is you pouring out saying, this is how I intend to make money. This is why somebody should pay attention to me. This is how I intend to grow it. It's answering fundamental questions and knowing that, this is realistic. I can make art for this amount of money. There's a market to sell it at this amount of money. I'm going to go to these venues. I'm going to get online. I need money to put together a portfolio. Simple things like that. So don't be intimidated by business plan. And in a lot of cases, unless you're planning to go for a loan to the bank, which isn't even that common anymore, you don't need a business plan. But you do need to think about how you're going to make money, how you're going to turn this venture of yours, this talent of yours into money, into a way to make a living.
To piggyback on what Mike said, I was just thinking as he was saying that 20, 25 years ago, before the information age, before we have the access that we have now, when people heard business plan, if they weren't a business person, then that term was kind of intimidating, because a business plan, I think for the most part, was meant to have your projections out, for the next 5 years, and the whole purpose was in order to take it to a bank or some financial institution to get a business loan for a particular thing. But I think the definition of business plan is kind of evolved and changed a little bit. You don't necessarily have to have a business plan to go get a loan. It could be just a general guideline for yourself, what you want to do, and just to have something written down, some steps, some avenues